and that's worth more and more.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liddy. Thank you. Thank you very much for your testimony. And then you can see, based on the questions here, that we are frustrated. And people, gentlewoman, yes. Just a moment. I was getting ready to let you go, but we have Congressman Maloney. Yes.
First of all, I want to thank you for your public service and for coming in to help out. Why did AIG meet the criteria of systemic risk while Lehman Brothers did not?
Congressman, you'd have to ask the Treasury Secretary and the Federal Reserve, New York Federal Reserve individual that made that decision at the time.
They made determinations that municipalities and foreign governments were of systemic importance to the United States banking system. Do you share that belief?
I think the totality of AIG represented systemic risk, not just the counterparties, but the guaranteed investment contracts and all of the policyholders that we have. I think had that failed, I think it would have created a real problem.
What proportion of the AIG counterparties would have faced bankruptcy without federal bailout of AIG?
I do not know.
And have you seen, or could you provide the committee with any analysis of the impact of the ownership of the residential mortgage-backed securities by AIG's life insurance companies, including whether problems in AIG's life insurance business as a result of their purchase of these played a role in the decision to provide the bailout? Basically, I have heard that the life insurance portion of AIG was regulated and was solvent. Is that true or not? That the life insurance portion did not receive, nor did it need bailout, that it was properly managed?
It was regulated and it was solvent, but as values of the residential mortgage-backed securities went down, because that was part of the investment that they had, it created a hole, and that hole has been, we've plugged some of that hole with money from the Federal Reserve.
So the Federal Reserve money has gone into that.
Yes.
And AIG argued that the bailout was necessary because of potential problems in the life insurance business, and you believe that is true?
I do.
How much went into the life insurance division?
It was somewhere between $17 and $20 billion.
Really?
To make up for the loss in asset values.
Really? And going forward, do you think, I read in the paper that AIG does not need another infusion of public money. Do you foresee that in the future you will not need any public money, additional public money?
Congresswoman, I certainly hope so. As I've said many times, we think what we have a good plan that will enable us to repay the American taxpayer. But it's very dependent upon what happens with the economy and what happens with global financial markets. If they were to go south, the way they did in the fourth quarter, that could change. If they remain stable or improve the way they appear to be, doing, that would be good news for our efforts.
Well, let's hope they remain moving in the right direction. Again, I want to thank you for coming in as a public service to help restructure one of America's great businesses. And finally, some employees of AIG are questioning the breakup of the company. They're saying that this is really not good for the future of a competitive business in America. And could you comment on the breakup and the selling off of assets of AIG?
I think in many of those companies that are going to receive separate identities and will be spun off company, those people are excited about that prospect. So in an AIA or an Alico, there's great excitement about those businesses. With respect to our property casualty business, where we'll sell at least a minority interest in it and we'll separate from the AIG name, there's great excitement there. If you work maybe in a technology area or an operations area in the corporate core, you might have a different thought about it, because your job could be eliminated, or you could get picked up by one of those companies as they get spun off.
And finally, the insurance division was regulated, but also the risky products division was regulated under the Office of Thrift Supervision, the regulator that AIG selected because they had a small portion of their company that was an S&L. And could you comment on the quality of regulation coming out of the Office of Thrift Supervision on the so-called risky products, AIG financial products?
Congresswoman, I can't, although the last time I was before Congress, there was an individual from the OTS who, if I remember his testimony, said, they just didn't have the wherewithal to be able to regulate something as massive and complicated as AIG financial products.
Again, thank you for your public service, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And also thank you, Mr. Liddy, for your time. And, of course, we appreciate you coming. And thank you so much for the information that you've given us. But we, as you can see on this side, there's a tremendous amount of frustration, and that we're trying to answer questions that are being raised. And at the same time, we're also trying to protect Americans, people's tax dollars, which is also very important. So we thank you very, very much and for coming today.
Thank you.
Now we move to the second. Yeah.
Chairman,
Yeah.
okay, you got it? All right, I'll get it.
I'd like to welcome the second panel, but let me say it's a long-standing tradition here that we swear all of our witnesses in. So if you would please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, answer in the affirmative. Thank you. You may be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses all answered in the affirmative. Let me suggest an order. Why don't we go in this order? Mr.